Welcome, everybody. My name is Andrew Schwab, and I'll be presenting today on balancing IT in the balancing technology and learning in the classroom. So I'm going to get my slides going here, and you should be seeing my slides now. We're here for the School Leadership Summit virtual online presentation. So you have the hashtags there if you'd like to participate via Twitter and social media. TCAL's a sponsor and helping organize this whole thing, so thanks to them. And then a lot of different partners are helping put this on as well. So I'm Andrew Schwab. I'm another Schwab on Twitter, and I am going to be talking about how do you balance IT concerns and classroom realities, particularly with implementing one-to-one mobile devices. We'll go through a brief intro. I'm going to talk infrastructure, I'm going to talk wireless, I'm going to talk about devices, and then different learning environments, as well as professional development, and we can do Q&A. So you should have a Q&A button in the Hangout over on the left if you want to post questions there as we go. I'll try to answer those. And then at the end, if I miss some, we can address those as well. But a little bit about who I am, where I work. So I'm Chief Technology Officer at Union Elementary School District. We're in San Jose, California. We're a K-8 of approximately 5,500 students. We have 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 1 transitional kindergarten, pre-K, TK school, and our district office. I'm on social media. I'm at another Schwab. You can follow me there. I'm also a member of the CUE Board of Directors, so Computer Using Educators in California. We help with professional development and teachers using technology in the classroom. So a little bit about me, where I got started. I'm in the city now working for a decent-sized district, but I actually started out at a small rural school district in La Grande, California, and really got my introduction to the power of technology in the classroom there when I went in and started teaching. I was the IT director, and then I started teaching. So realized that technology really has to work in the classroom if you want teachers to use it. And we were fortunate that in our area, there were a couple of districts that were doing some innovative things around one-to-one, particularly around iPads. This was back in 2010, 2011, when the iPads started coming out. And so through a process of visiting sites and schools that were doing one-to-one very early on, we started to conceptualize what that could look like in our school. And in 2011, decided to go one-to-one iPads at a high school district, and learned a lot during that process and picked up a lot of things along the way. One of the most I think important pieces that I learned is it's really hard to see what one-to-one looks like without seeing it in action. So conceptualizing it and having discussions around it and talking about professional development for what a one-to-one mobile learning environment looks like in the classroom is really difficult if you haven't seen it before. So fortunately, we were able to take several trips out to surrounding districts and see what they were doing. And it's a lot easier now because there's a lot more folks that are doing it. So I'm an IT guy by training. That's what I do for a living. Even though I consider myself a reformed IT guy after going into the classroom and teaching, I still consider infrastructure to be a key piece. And when I talk infrastructure, I mean this stuff. It's the cables and the wiring and the fiber optics and the devices that hide away in closets and cabinets in our schools that nobody ever sees. Generally speaking, you don't know they exist until something is not working. But this really is the foundation of what we're trying to do with building 21st century learning environments, building future-ready classrooms. You need cable to get to where you want to go because everybody wants to just get to the web, right? I've heard that the web is the new operating system. Well, you can't get there unless you have a decent cable infrastructure. So I like to collect pictures of wiring closets. And if I visit your school, I will probably sneak into a wiring closet and take a picture. You can see on the left an example of what I would consider not optimal. And on the right, we have something that looks a little better. This is a really easy way to tell if your cable infrastructure is in a good place or not. If your wiring looks like it does on the left, you know you probably have some work to do. And if it looks like it does on the right, you're probably okay. This is what I like to call spaghetti. So if you have a cable infrastructure that looks like this, trying to support it and keep it running and figure out when something goes wrong, what's wrong, is very difficult. And now more than ever, access in the classroom is critical. Teachers are dependent on it, students are dependent on it for learning. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if the internet went down, you know, maybe 1 or 2 people noticed and would give you a call. Now when the internet goes down, everybody notices. So you need to build that on a good foundation. Just some more examples of, you know, suspect cabling. This is actually what fiber optic cable looks like before it gets pulled into the ground and configured. So that was actually a new run that we had to run because we were having issues with some of our existing. And really, this is all about connectivity, right? So when your cables, when your cable infrastructure, your network infrastructure, your switches, your servers are not robust, you're going to have connectivity problems, and connectivity problems are going to lead to frustration in the classroom because when access is intermittent, people have a hard time relying on it. So again, your cable counts, and if your cables are cut and look like that, you have issues. Another thing really that can get overlooked is just having a good idea of what your network topology looks like, understanding how things connect from the classroom to the school to the internet. And my mantra is I always try to simplify, right? So simplify. The simpler it is, the easier it is to troubleshoot when something goes wrong. The more complex it is, the more time and staff and skill you need to support it. So to me, simpler is better. And also having good documentation is really important too. Sometimes we don't take the time to do that, but it does pay off down the line when you're trying to do either new things or just trying to figure out why something's not working. Helps to have an understanding of how it's configured. So anyway, if you walk in and you see your cable infrastructure looks like this, then you're pretty well set. This is one of the cleanest examples I've ever seen with color-coded cables for different services. Nice wire management, looks really good. Talking about server infrastructure, you know, this actually came from a school district. I won't say where, but this is these are the servers that run their district, and you know they're sitting under a table in various states of age, configuration updates. The fascinating thing to me now is that in this day and age, we really don't need servers to do a lot of what we want to do. You know, the cloud, which is what everybody calls it, moving to the cloud, really has evolved to the point where a district could run the majority of their services as hosted apps in the cloud. And really the amount of server infrastructure required becomes very minimal. But those are conscious decisions that have to be made. So really taking a look at what you have running on your premises, on your servers, what can be moved off to the cloud, understanding what it means when you move things off to the cloud, that you really have to have robust bandwidth. Your bandwidth, not only for just day-to-day activities, but also operations of the district, but also learning, the bandwidth requirements are going to be increasing exponentially, especially as we move more into personalized learning with video, where every student's watching an independent video as opposed to the entire class watching a video that the teacher is presenting. Virtual field trips with, teachers doing interactive video via Skype or Google Hangout. Really looking at bandwidth as that critical piece of infrastructure that ties into your physical cable infrastructure. So I always say you can never have enough bandwidth. If you think you have enough now, just wait a year, and you probably will wish you had more. So bandwidth is one of those things as well that ties into this. And all of this is it's techie stuff that you don't really see, but it's all behind the scenes working to provide access and connectivity, which is really what we're trying to do when we talk building future-ready classrooms. So speaking of Wi-Fi, and speaking of access, Wi-Fi becomes critically important. This is an updated Maslow's hierarchy, and you can see down at the bottom we have battery, which of course is important, and right above that, wireless. Excuse me. So how do we make sure that we have good connectivity in the classroom for all these mobile devices that we're looking at? Well, I can tell you, so 2 Wi-Fi stories. One when I got here to my current district, and the one we're moving to based on some successes that other folks have had. When I got here, having 1 AP for every 2 to 3 classrooms with a cloud-based controller, doing some radius login, some complicated kind of authentication where you have to take multiple steps to authenticate to the wireless. Excuse me, was causing us some issues. So it was a little more complicated than it had to be. And not having an access point per classroom really became an issue when we started looking at connectivity, because as we started to add more and more devices to every classroom, we quickly found out that having 2 or 3 classrooms served by 1 access point just wasn't enough. So we are moving, we actually did move over last summer to a 1 AP access point per classroom model, where we know within that classroom we have good connectivity. We're also moving to authenticate via Google. So Google is our web-based communication collaboration platform. It's where our students and teachers are. By having them authenticate to the wireless via Google, it just gives them 1 login instead of multiple. So it makes it really easy. Excuse me. And I think that's one of the keys is, again, technology has to be easy to use in the classroom. If it's difficult, if it's hard to connect to the wireless, if it's hard to get past the web filter, if devices don't, if their batteries aren't lasting, all of these things are kind of roadblocks to success for teachers and students, because some teachers will navigate around those and find ways around it and make it work. But for teachers who find technology to be a bit intimidating, anytime there's an issue that comes up with access, it can potentially turn them off from using technology. So really trying to build an environment that's as easy to use and as user-friendly as possible is really one of the things I see as key to making sure technology is successful in the classroom. So here's just a picture. If your Wi-Fi is easy enough that you can have a classroom teacher hang the access points, then you know you're on the right track. That would be that picture on the right. All right, let's talk devices. So this is kind of the old paradigm. We still have these in some of our classrooms, but really we're moving away from the idea of fixed fixed locations for computing in classrooms. And we really want to move, well, maybe not to that, but that's certainly one option. But we want to move to mobile devices where students have access to a device where and when they need it. We want to think about devices as far as what do we want to do with them, right? So what do we want students to do? What does learning look like in the classroom? What kind of devices make sense? But we also have to think about some of the technology challenges with devices. How do we support them? How do we manage them? How do we make sure they're actually functional and usable on a day-to-day basis in the classroom? So those are some considerations. We have actually been moving towards, well, I guess Chromebooks are our default kind of base platform because they tie in really well with Google. Google Apps, it works across tablets as well. But for us, I think maybe like a lot of districts, online testing has obviously played a role in some of the decisions we made for devices. But what we found is you can do a lot with a Chromebook. So we've got students collaborating, working on Google apps, programming, just doing a tremendous amount with Chromebooks in the classroom. But we are constantly evaluating what device for what function works best in the classroom. So while in grades 3 through 8, Chromebooks are our mobile device of choice, we also have access to other devices, including tablets. And then at the K2 level, we're actually currently piloting different devices. We have Android tablets, iPads, touch-based Chromebooks, as well as regular Chromebooks. And I see this as a constantly evolving process. It's not, it's not like the old days where we could just standardize everything and say, we're going to do this one device across the entire school district. And that's what we're going to use. One, because I think, the capabilities are different across different devices, and so we really want to maximize that. But also because technology changes so fast that as soon as you implement a standard, it's probably obsolete, right? So the process of doing this constant evaluation and having these kind of pilot classrooms where we're continuously evaluating, I think is going to be very important to us moving forward. Just to make sure that what we're doing makes sense in our classrooms, and that we're also aware of what the new technologies are and what their capabilities are. And here's just an example of an experiment where we took a Chromebook and attached a Wacom tablet, and now we have an interactive tablet working with a Chromebook. It's actually my daughter right there. So, and there are different options coming out now with different touch-based tablets, different operating systems that's running Ubuntu. We're a Chromebook district, but obviously our students want to play Minecraft. So one of the things we've done is we have now Minecraft carts that are running UberMix Linux, which allow us to run Minecraft because it's not easy to run Minecraft on a Chromebook. So we're very flexible in terms of operating system, device, and what we're doing. So I want to talk a little bit about learning environments because one of the things that we're looking at is not only changing, the technology and introducing these one-to-one mobile devices, but also looking at the environment of our classrooms and how environment affects learning. What are the possibilities if we look at kind of more flexible learning environments? So we're running several pilots there. So this is an example of a classroom. It's actually a relocatable, a portable, where we've put in a set of flexible furniture. So this is one of our early sets, so the chairs don't actually have wheels, but the tables have wheels that can be moved around. We're moving away from projectors and moving to what I'm calling large format digital displays, which is actually just a flat screen TV. This particular one is an 80-inch. We've been experimenting with different sizes. And then we have this student collaboration table, which is actually standing height for students, not for adults, but for students it's standing height. And then we put a 39-inch TV there with a Chromecast and an HDMI cable so that kids can collaborate in that space. They can plug in their Chromebook, work on a presentation together, and all be able to see what's going on. And so the idea is to have these flexible environments where we can rearrange and reconfigure as needed based on the activity. I just mentioned chairs and wheels, and so that's just a picture of the number of chairs that we've demoed over the last year. Funny enough, when I started working with the flexible furniture, immediately the feedback was we have to have wheels on everything. And so trying to find a chair with wheels, with legs that don't kind of stick out or that isn't too big has been a challenge. And so we've been trying all kinds of chairs. And the chairs that we're currently going to pilot next year, I think we're going to have 4 different models and types out there. And then, of course, color comes into the equation too, but don't get me started on color. So we're looking at things like, whiteboard walls. This is actually one of our training rooms at the district office, and it's actual whiteboard. It's not paint or wallpaper. Just from my perspective, this seems to be sturdier. It's also magnetic, which is kind of nice because you can use it as a display wall with magnets. So we're looking at different surfaces. Here's another example of a large format digital display, or I should just say a 70-inch TV. But some of the concerns were: is it going to be large enough? Is it people going to be able to see it? So we found 70 inches in all of our classrooms to be pretty optimal as far as cost and size visibility goes. And since we're moving from like the 800 by 600 projectors, kind of the old style square projectors, this picture is about that same size diagonally, but it's just a lot more. It's a lot clearer and a lot brighter. And so we're doing Apple TV and we're doing Chromecast so that our teachers can connect and our students can connect. We did a limited pilot. We did about 35 classrooms this last year, and now we're going to do every classroom in the district. And the only place that we found that where the single display is not optimal is in some of our portables, which are longer than they are wide. The single display in the center, if you have your students arranged across the entire length of the space, visibility on the edges becomes an issue. So we're actually one of our portable classrooms, we're piloting dual displays. So we're doing 60 inches, about 8 feet apart along the long wall. So that'll be that's one of our school sites where the teachers have volunteered to do that. So I think we'll have different opportunities in that room with 2 displays. So one of the questions Grace asked: how big are the classrooms? Our classrooms are generally standard size, 960 square foot for California. We have some oversized classrooms, and in a couple of those, we're actually looking at running a display on either side of the wall or on either end. Our eventual, I think where we're moving eventually is we're going to be moving into a primary teaching display, and then several kind of student stations or student display areas where it's a smaller display and students can plug in or connect via Chromecast or some other technology, so that they have the ability to share what they're doing. A couple of our teachers have asked for a second display so they can post like the post a resource site and then show a presentation at the same time. So we're going to be moving into multiple displays over the next year in several of our pilot classrooms. One of the other big things that comes up in classrooms when we look at our mobile one-to-one device is storage and charging. So we are not doing take-home at the moment, although we're going to start a one-to-one take-home at 6th grade next year. I think take-home has a lot of advantages, not just for learning. I mean, so the title of this was a balancing act, and yeah, it's great to send devices home with kids, especially if they don't have access at home, and it's great to be able to extend the learning day to provide them access to that resource. From a practical perspective, if you send it home, you don't have to worry about locking it up and storing it in the classroom in a consolidated way. You don't have to worry about charging it because you make that a responsibility of it going home. It's an individually assigned device at that point, so conceptually, students should take care of it a little better than having it going in and out of a cart all day. And to be honest, where I've seen breaks in our environment is really in the device being put in the cart or taken out of the cart. So you eliminate that. And then, not every classroom has a full class set yet. So we've got some enterprising teachers who have figured out that the folder dividers work great for these devices, but, then they're not secure. I think take home has definite advantages over in class. And since we're moving to a one-to-one environment in our district, and I think everybody hopefully should be at some point, just assigning that device to the student, I think makes a lot of sense. So another piece about learning environments that we may or may not think about is really the web filter and filtering the internet. So the internet is an extension of the classroom. Rather than look at it as a negative thing, I actually like to think of it as a positive piece. We use a cloud-based solution called Securely, and it gives us this dashboard that actually shows us what kids are doing in a positive way. So what are they accessing, not what are we blocking. So you can see Google and Wikipedia and Khan Academy over the last month have been the most popular. So it's just a different way of thinking about web access, looking for what are the trends on a positive note the kids are accessing versus what are we blocking or what are they trying to get to. All right, so of course I've got 4 minutes and I'm at professional development, and nobody ever thinks about professional development. It's kind of an afterthought. For us here, it's very important. There's this idea of training versus professional development, and I've been watching some discussion on Twitter. You know, training is, I'm going to show you how to use Google Slides, I think, and then professional development is, I'm going to show you how to use Google Slides integrated into an instructional strategy or lesson or practice that is going to help you in your classroom with your students. So I think you need both. I think, you know, teachers have to feel comfortable with the technology before they feel comfortable integrating it. Although you could argue that as long as a teacher is open to students using technology and the students are comfortable with technology, you may not have to have as much of a comfort level with it or be an expert in it. For us, I think of PD as an adventure. I try to organize our professional development around experiences. We have a group of teachers right now that are at an instructional design institute. We actually approached the Tech Museum in San Jose. They designed an innovative space. We're renting it out for a great reduced fee. I appreciate their support very much. And but it's a place where teachers are going. It's an experience. They're not just coming to the district office or going to their school site. You know, we're trying to build them up and give them basically an adventure in PD. So it's not your traditional, I'm going to go sit for 6 hours and somebody's going to talk at me. It's really designed to get them engaged, excited, and really diving into how technology can be utilized in a one-to-one classroom. In addition, try to promote local free events for professional development. EdCamp's one of my favorite ones. If you haven't been to an EdCamp, check out edcamp.org or just look for the hashtag EdCamp. There are other like regional events in California. Q hosts affiliate events. Other organizations host events, the Google Summits. So there's lots of PD opportunity out there, and really just trying to direct teachers to it and encourage them to attend is one of the things that I do on a regular basis. This struck me as really interesting. I went to the Future Ready Summit. Actually, our leadership team did. And one of the key slides and takeaways for me was, if you want skills to transfer into the classroom, you have to do coaching and mentoring. You can do all the other stuff all day long and the teachers will get it, but transferring that skill into the classroom doesn't happen. So coaching and mentoring is huge. We actually have, right now we're in our 3rd year of a coaching mentoring model where we have technology teacher leaders and we run them through different stages of professional development. And it's a week in the summer. It's a series of commitments throughout the year. And they basically become their site leaders for technology integration. Not tech support, but actual technology integration in the classroom. Okay, so I think I finished with a minute to spare. I'm in another Schwab. If you have questions, feel free to just tweet at me. If you have questions right now, you can post them in the Q&A app. This presentation is available at bit.ly/futurebalance. And that was my presentation.